Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. It's a real honor for me to, as a coordinator of the Marine Working Group, to share with you today some thoughts on transboundary marine protected areas. Let me take a moment to introduce the broader framework we are a part of. The IUCN-WC, I don't know which is what are you seeing? Okay, it's good. The IUCN-WCPA Transboundary Conservation Specialist Group is our group, is a global network of experts and key stakeholders working on cross-border terrestrial and marine cooperation for natural conservation. We are part of the Work Commission on Protected Areas, which gives us the chance to link local and regional experience with a truly global platform. Today, the group brings together around 250 members from across the world, managers. So managers, researchers, NGOs, and policymakers. And that diversity is our strength. It means that we can learn from many contexts, share knowledge, and build alliances to go beyond borders. For those who want to connect further, here are our links, and of course, you can always reach out directly, myself as a coordinator of the Marine Working Group, or our chair, Stefania Petrosillo. Let me begin with our group mission. We work to promote cross-border efforts for nature conservation, safeguarding not only biodiversity, but also ecosystem services, cultural values, and ultimately peace and cooperation between nations. That's why we launched the Marine Working Group, because the ocean knows no borders, and neither should our conservation strategies. Our approach is built on 4 interconnected pillars. First, networking and visibility. We connect managers, scientists, communities, and institutions, sharing experiences and giving visibility to results. Second, skill dialogue. Strong management skills are essential, but equally important is dialogue. And we want to ensure long-term commitment in our conservation strategy. So our mission is not just technical, it's about combining politics, law, science, society, economics, and ecology. Let's start with the fundamental question that we can have. Why do we need marine protected areas? MPAs play a crucial role, ecological role, but the role is goes beyond ecology. They support local cultures and economies that depend on the sea. In short, MPAs are not just about nature, they are about people too. The next question is what level of protection really works? Scientific literature is clear. Fully protected areas or no-take zones are the most effective in restoring biodiversity and ecosystem functions. When fishing and extractive activities are excluded, fish biomass increases, habitats recover, and ecosystem regain resilience. Here you can see the contrast from the past with the healthy and abundant marine life to our present, where many species have declined. And the future, it depends on our choices. With the full protection, we can bring back richness and diversity. With weaker measure, the ocean remains depleted. So the evidence, the science tells us if we want real results, we need zones that are fully protected. But we must be realistic. We don't work in a lab. We work in socio-ecological systems, a place where communities depend on the sea for their livelihoods. That's why the concept of protected areas has evolved now to socio-ecological approaches. This means designing MPAs that are ecologically effective and socially fair, combining strict no-take zone where they most needed and with areas that allow sustainable uses. because conservation cannot succeed without the support of local communities. We need governance that brings together politics, law, science, economics, and society, ensuring both biodiversity protection and human well-being. Marine protected areas can fulfill their goals only if we balance all dimensions, protecting the ocean while sustaining the communities that depend on it. Let's look at where we stand in Europe. The EU-MPA network currently covers about 12.3% of AUCs. Marine Natura 2000 sites more than 9%. At the first glance, this seems positive. We are on the track towards the 30% target by 2030. But if we see deeper, the picture changes. Only 0.03% of AUCs are strictly protected, and just 4% of the MPA areas has the necessary fishery management measures in place. Most MPAs, in fact, are not effectively managed. So while maybe we can't counting the surface area as a target, we are not yet ensuring real protection. And this lack of effectiveness becomes even clearer when we look at management. Across Mediterranean, only 12% of MPAs have an approved management plan, just 4% have a sufficient budget, and barely 1% have sufficient staff. This tells us something very important. We are expanding networks on paper, but the foundation, staff, funding, and management are missing. Without these, the 2030 targets risk becoming a paper achievement, not a real one. Since the mid-19th, research showed an explosion of interest in stakeholder engagement. This is no coincidence. The scientific community has increasingly recognized that conservation is not only about biology, ecology, but also about social interaction, the dialogue between protected areas managers and the stakeholders who live, work, and depend on this ecosystem. Universities, research centers, NGOs, local communities, fishermen, and institutions are all part of this conversation, because without them, no conservation effort can be truly effective. But here is the challenge. There is a big difference between simply informing stakeholders and truly empowering them. At the lowest level, engagement means just sharing information, which requires little effort and often results in weak participation. At the highest level, it means empowerment, giving stakeholders the power to co-decide, collaborate, and shape the future of the protected areas. Yes, it takes time, patience, and long-term commitment, and at both the individual and institutional level, but only through this path can we build trust and ensure that cooperation becomes a lasting reality and effective conservation. So now let me share with you a concrete example of this approach, the ENGAGE project, co-funded by the European Union under the Interreg IPI South Adriatic Programme. The project involves 4 territories across Italy, Albania, and Montenegro, working together to enhance the protection of nature and biodiversity in the South Adriatic Ionian Strait. What makes ENGAGE special is not only its ecological focus, but its integrated approach. Through trainings, we strengthen the skills of managers and practitioners. Through workshops, we create spaces for dialogue among institutions, NGOs, and local communities. And through study visits, we learn directly from each other's experiences and realities. Why here? Because the South Adriatic-Ionian Strait is a hotspot of high biodiversity and in particular high mobile species, sea turtles, dolphins, monk seals, and large pelagic fish that not recognize borders, and protecting them requires shared science, shared governance, and shared responsibility. You see some of this in this picture, some of the example of the return of monk seals in the Montenegro after 50 years, the presence of the monk seals along the southern coast of the Apulia region in Italy, and also on the left, the tracking, satellite tracking of marine turtles in the region. So the level of biodiversity is very important. As we zoom into the South Adriatic-Ionian Strait, one fact becomes very clear. This is not an ordinary area. It's already recognized internationally as an ecological or biological significant marine area under the Convention of Biological Diversity. This recognition highlights the exceptionally biodiversity and ecological process present. In addition, part of this area is designated as fishery restricted area by the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean. This means that the international community has already acknowledged both its ecological value and the urgent need for sustainable management of fishing activities. There are the presence of also of two SPAMI sites under the Barcelona Convention. As we look at these maps, one thing becomes immediately clear. This is not an empty area. The South Adriatic-Ionian region is a space of intense economic activity, from fishing grounds to maritime traffic routes, from oil and gas extraction to potential mining sites, and now also the expansion of offshore wind farming. Each of these uses brings opportunities, sustain for the local community, but also pressures and the conflicts. They compete for spaces and they affect biodiversity, ecosystems, and the local communities that depend on the sea for their livelihoods. This is why transboundary cooperation and good governance are essential to balance economic development with long-term protection of our marine heritage. So the idea is to protect more effectively this part of the Mediterranean region. When we talk about transboundary marine protection, it's essential to understand that we are not starting from zero. We already have a number of regional and international tools available, but the key question is how effective are they in addressing the real challenges of marine conservation, of transboundary marine conservation. Before looking at how effective the tools are, it's important to understand what kind of tools we have at our disposal today for transboundary marine protection in this Mediterranean region. We can group them into four main categories. The legally binding international frameworks, as the UNCLOS, the JFCM fishery restricted areas, and also the particular sensitive sea areas for the international maritime conservation, and also ACOBAMS, that is for the marine mammals. We have scientific and ecological tools as ABACIs in the important shark and ray areas, also present in this sub-region, identified by IUCN, which provide a strong scientific basis for conservation. We have ecological networks and regional conservation instruments like the Emerald Network under the Council of Europe, Natura 2000 of the European Union, and the SPAMIs, the Special Protected Area of Mediterranean Interest under the Barcelona Convention. But at the European level, we have also governance and territorial cooperation mechanism, like the European Grouping Territorial Cooperation, which support cross-border governance and joint management structures. So we do have a wide range of instruments, from legal frameworks to scientific designation, from ecological networks to governance tools. But the question is, how effective are they in practice? Because we need to evaluate if these type of instruments are effective in the conservation of our mobile species that characterize this sub-region. The first criterion is their binding power in international waters. Strong instruments like UNCLOS with the BMUKN instruments, the fishery restricted area, and the particular sensitive areas for the International Maritime Organization provide a real legal obligation, but applicable beyond the national jurisdiction, but they are not very effective at coastal level, so are not real effective along the coast, and others like ABCIs and ISRAS are not binding. They identify critical habitats but lack enforcement. This means recognition without a real protection. The second criterion is their ability to protect mobile species. Cetaceans, sea turtles, and large pelagic fish move across borders and need consistent protection along the routes. Some tools like ACOBAMS or fishery restricted areas can set operational restriction and manage area effectively, but they are on ICs, and so many instruments are only recommendatory, so offering plans or guidelines without enforceable measures, and for mobile species, partial protection is simply not enough. And the other, we look at community involvement. That is the real important aspect, because no conservation framework can succeed without the buy-in of local communities, fishers, coastal authorities. Unfortunately, most instruments score low here, while mechanisms like the European Grouping Territorial Cooperation allow for multi-level governance and stakeholder participation, many others are top-down, leaving little room for local voices. And yet we know from experience, when communities are involved, conservation lasts. Without them, it fails. So at the regional level, we have the tools in order to try to identify this type of transboundary protected area, but unless they are binding, unless they ensure real protection for mobile species, unless they truly involve communities, they will remain insufficient. The challenge now is to transform this toolkit into real effective governance at sea, moving from recognition to implementation. So the lesson learned is that no single instrument is sufficient to guarantee real protection. And most importantly, integration is the key. We need to combine tools, scientific tools, regulatory instruments, and participatory governance, giving us the effective model that we need to protect effectively. So the other part that we learn is that we must combine politics, laws, science, society, economics, and ecology. Not only as we don't only need a scientific approach, but we need also a social science approach in order to involve local communities to have a long-term commitment in the conservation. And also, we need to reach the 2030 target, 2030 target. We need to include also transnational areas that are effectively protected, not only on the paper, but with also the involvement of the local communities. This is the mission of our Marine Working Group, and I warmly invite you all to join us, to contribute to your ideas, your experiences, and your voices, because only together we can make transboundary cooperation a reality for the ocean that we share. So, thank you very much.